What's going on, great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox. It's your guy, Johnny Main, to the left of me, to the right of me, however you're watching this. Welcome to Week 9 of the Fantasy Football Show. We got the Week 8 reactions. We got all the juiciness. We got all the sauce to bring you guys. The waiver wire pieces, the trade advices. It's a big week coming down the stretch. Some of you guys are in desperate need of advice, and we got y'all covered, yo. I'm fired up. I'm excited. Johnny, say what's up to the people.
What up? A little bit salty this evening here. We'll talk about it, but it's a little salty.
You salty? How?
I know.
Dodgers up 3-0 in the World Series. Steelers won last night, convincing fashion.
Oh yeah, and then Deontay Johnson.
You beat me
Ravens.
in one of our season-long leagugues.
Yeah, man,
week.
that's part.
We play each other again in another league.
That's par for the course, though. That's par for the course. Doing that all year long. Been doing that all year long, bro. Been doing that all year long, man.
Relax. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, the Steelers did win in convincing fashion last night, man. Definitely, offense is looking good, man. Defense is still a little shaky at points in time, man. They make plays when they need to. Specials is showing up, man. So, to your point, man, I don't have a whole lot to be salty about other than Deontay Johnson being a rat bird. But other than that right there, I'm happy.
That sucks. Yeah, we'll get into that also. Let's get into what we noticed from week 8 in its entirety. Do you have anything in topic-wise that is on your heart when it comes to what you saw from week 8?
Just taking a quick look through everything, man. Detroit Lions, obviously, man. Either they're really good or the Titans are really bad. I think it's more the latter. With that one right there, the Titans are really bad. Goes without saying, I think it's obviously made some headlines, but Anthony Richardson, man, wow. I had to come out because I was tired. Wow. I don't what do you even say to that, man? You know what I mean? My guy Jordan Love going down. That hurt really bad for me. A lot of my DFS lineups, man. I had a lot of Packer stacks. There's people that watch the show and stuff. They probably know I've been going to the Jordan Love a lot, and I thought, man, this is 3 weeks in a row I'm going, and typically that's one of my rule of thumbs. Not a lot to say about the Jets, man. I'll leave that to you. And then, man, what a crazy ending, man, in that Commanders and Bears game, man. That was wild. But yeah, man, I think just overall for me, man, I think, Pittsburgh Steelers are for real. Again, I know it's kind of echoing that the Buffalo Bills look good on the road, man. Tampa Bay had a lot more fight than what I had anticipated, man, in that game. I thought Atlanta was going to go in there and kind of, steamroll over them. But overall, one of the side notes, man, one of the things I noticed from this week, man, and maybe I'll post it up on my Twitter. But had a profitable week, man. Got up about $600 on a couple bets. So feeling pretty good about that, you know what I mean? So it was definitely a nice week for me all the way across the board. But overall, like I said, man, the AFC North Division leading Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Thanks a lot to Jameis Winston coming out of left field, man, and knocking off the Baltimore Ravens, man. So it was definitely a very unique week for me, man. I didn't really wasn't indulged in it as I normally am, man. Had a birthday for my sweet princess who turned 11. So, kind of had to dedicate the time to her, man. But I was on the go watching it on my phone. And, it is what it is, man. So, yeah.
Love it. Couple of things. Going Knicks. I want to talk about him really quickly. Do you know he's the QB9 overall right now?
Yeah, well,
he is the QB9 overall, and his ownership right now in Sleeper is only 35%.
In the beginning of the season, man, I made a short talking about Bo Nix and talking about how I was buying into the talent of Bo Nix, not the situation. So to tell me or to take a victory lap, if you will, about Bo Nix, I'm not shocked at all, man. It is actually there. There is a digital receipt for me giving Bo Nix his flowers. So talking to me, man.
Um, it's more of I didn't know where I stood on Bo Nix, honestly, because this could have gone one way or another. And the
Mm,
first couple of games, he threw 4 interceptions between the first 2 games. And then you're like, I don't know about this kid. I have no idea. But the rushing's there. You know what I'm saying? He
yeah,
has 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. But let's be honest. The only thing I'll say about Bo Nix is that he's looked decent against teams that he's supposed to beat, right? New Orleans, who didn't have Derek Carr. They played the Carolina Panthers this week, who started Bryce Young instead of Andy Dalton. Yeah. So, look, Denver's looked decent so far as a complete team, but they get tested this week against Baltimore, and they get Kansas City. So then we'll really see how they stand after that. But I did say on the TBQ Sports Show every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, is that I expected Denver to at least be better than their Vegas win-loss total. And it was 4.5 before the season started. So I knew this team had something. It was just Sean Payton was getting called out left and right, as you remember, of just being a coach that does he still have it? I don't know. Like, there are a lot of people questioning that. But I thought he at least had some pieces on this Denver team that could keep things formidable. So with Bo Nix, you're hoping that he can possibly continue this up. But again, for fantasy purposes, like, man, QB9 right now. Oof, boy,
well,
that's interesting.
And you know what else is even more interesting than everything you're saying? You know, my next segue is going to be about what the Baltimore Ravens given up in the passing game. And now, obviously, the number 9 fantasy quarterback, Bo Nix, is going to be playing the Baltimore Ravens this upcoming week. So I think that'll be very interesting to see how that shakes out. I don't expect the Broncos to win, but to the point we're talking about, it seems like things are kind of lining up for Bo Nix to have a solid day against the Baltimore Raven defense. So, it'll be pretty interesting for sure. And Sean Payton, I've said it a couple times on this show. I know some people didn't like him for whatever reason, man. And, he might have did our quarterback dirty, Russ, which I'm kind of glad he did do him dirty at this point. I'm glad he did. But the guy, man, this is par for the course. Sean Payton, we talked about it a little bit last week, multiple running backs, multiple wide receivers, multiple tight ends. He knows what he wants. And if he has the ingredients to make it happen, you'll see it. Not to change subjects or anything, but I'm more impressed with what they've done on the defensive side of the ball than offensively, man. I think we all probably expected some kind of upgrade offensively. But defensively, that team has been a lot better than we had anticipated. And the one guy I think we're still all kind of waiting on, man, almost halfway through the years, we're still waiting on Cortland Sutton, man. That was a guy I was relatively high on him, and for where he was going.
He had a good game last week. He had over 100 yards.
We're still waiting, though.
8 catches, 100 yards last week.
But do we expect that to continue? And it's week 8, and we're now talking about that. You know what I mean?
Definitely continue this past week against Baltimore. Baltimore
third
most receiving yards. You know what I'm saying? But
it could
in the NFL so far. So
it could. But that's a guy that I'm still waiting on. I was listening to some stuff earlier.
Speaking of the Ravens stink from a Steelers fan, or is it more of just a let up spot? Like we said on Sunday that Cleveland could have potentially covered, if anything else. To win that game and the way they won that game, is it are we all overreacting? Or is there more to the surface here?
I think so, man. I think it's overreaction, dude. AFC North games, man, they go, man, they are what they are. You know what I mean? AFC North games,
division game.
Yeah, they've always been like this, man. And the Browns have played the Ravens tough, man. The Browns have played the Ravens tough. The Bengals and the Ravens are typically shootouts. The Steelers beat up
Stringles, huh?
Yeah, the Steelers beat up on the Ravens and the Bengals. The Steelers have handled business inside of the division, man. So it's a weird domino effect inside of the AFC North. Even when you think about last year and the Cleveland Browns being a playoff team, remember they were playing against the Houston Texans last year in the playoffs, right? So, I mean, it's just been one of those things, man, that division's been really weird. I don't think the Baltimore Ravens stink by any stretch of the imagination. I just think like, hey, man, all those teams are all designed and orchestrated to beat each other. And I think we've finally seen what can happen if the Cleveland Browns get a little bit of decent quarterback play. My man Cedric Tillman from UT coming up big in that spot too, man. So shout out to him, man, and shout out UT.
Chiefs stay undefeated, but they only won by 7 points against the Raiders. Raiders covered. They were like a 9-point underdog, and they ended up covering. The Raiders played them pretty tough. What concerns you most about the Chiefs in general?
Oh, man, I think it's just a par for the course, man, with them, right? It's been the same old, like not very explosive offensively. They were able to move the football up and down the field. Like we were messaging about it. I think like what's going to happen with the Chiefs is eventually at some point, lack of playmakers is going to catch up with them. It's going to catch up with them eventually. And I say lack of playmakers very loosely because obviously Patrick Mahomes is still a better real world quarterback than he is fantasy quarterback. Kansas City Chiefs are still a very, very, very great team defensively. I just think that there's going to come a point in time in the season where they're going to get exposed for not having playmakers all over the field. They took a stab at, obviously, a D-Hop. I think it might be a year too late on him. And then you got to keep Travis Kelce healthy coming down the stretch. They got Xavier Worthy, which I think they play the Bucs this week. So I expect a big day from the Chiefs offensively this week going against the Bucs, as the Bucs have been in the middle of every shootout in the NFL so far this year. So obviously they're going to give up a point. So like get right spot for Mahomes, man. So it's probably going to look better. And the conversation will probably die down for another 2 weeks or so. But I still believe in the Kansas City Chiefs. I still think they're a good football team. I still think they can make some noise, but like, I don't think anybody's going to be like, it's impressive. It's impressive the fact that they continue to keep winning, given the roster that they have.
Yeah. I mean, it's more with the Chiefs. It's like, I wouldn't be shocked if they actually repeated. We wouldn't be shocked by that whatsoever. It's just the offense, man. Like, there's still obviously questions with Mahomes. It's like Mahomes is not even playing his best football. I feel like we say this week after week right now. He hasn't played his best ball yet. Like, he just hasn't. And like from a fantasy perspective, it absolutely sucks for us because I drafted him in a couple leagues. But in terms of how real life football goes, like X and O's, like Mahomes is looking like still a QB that hasn't played his best ball, and we're about to be into week 9. It's kind of scary, honestly. So it's just interesting to observe overall. But we're gonna dive right into the buy lows. Say again.
8 touchdowns, 9 picks, man. Gross.
It's crazy. It's wild. They for NFL MVP odds, Allen and Lamar are now tied, and Mahomes is still behind them. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. I mean, I don't know. I'll probably double check the odds later, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
that's true.
I don't know. Who knows? Crazier things have happened though, and bigger turnarounds have happened. So, buy low, sell high for week 9. We got y'all covered. First things first, we got to go over the bye weeks because there's a ton of them. I also want to include week 10 as well because I think it's very, as far as trying to stay ahead of the curve. Week 9, your Steelers are on bye, and then the Niners are on bye. So in some cases, people are going to definitely be hitting that situation because there's no Debo, there's no Kittle, there's no Pearsall, then there's no Harris, there's no Pickens, there's no Russ Wilson if you were streaming him. If you were desperate playing tight end, Fryer move. But there's a ton here to get into when it comes to bye weeks. So there's going to be some waiver wire fill-in guys that we can hopefully snag off your waiver wires, plug and play, hopefully, or get aggressive in the trade market. But first things first, week 9, buy low, sell high. The first buy. By the way, the buy section this past week was legit. I'm hoping some people got out there and bought some guys that we mentioned. from the past week, because man, like it was only a matter of time before CeeDee Lamb, right, got off his high
Yeah.
horse and finally got put in a big game. And it came more in the second
Yeah.
half, obviously, but he was, finally him and Dak got on the same page. Jonathan Taylor came back. He told people to go grab Jonathan Taylor because, now it's even, you could still probably go get him now, but
Yeah.
price is not going to be where you was last week. A-Chan was another guy. Let's go. I was hype. I was hype all Miami game, which is sickening to say. But Devon A-Chan, just here he come. Here he comes. Puka Nacua, because we said him and Cup, both of them were buys before the Thursday game. Especially we heard about Puka getting all these reps in. So yeah, like Devontae Smith was also on that list too. So yeah, pay attention to the buy section, the sell section, because it's honestly real gold and it really is a pendulum swinger sometimes when it comes to leagues, right, Johnny?
It is. Hey man, I got Cedric Tillman. I got him. I haven't made any moves, man.
That's a waiver wire move. That's not a buy. That's not a trade.
No, but I mean, you're right. You're right. I was looking forward to the quarterback piece. You caught me, okay? You caught me.
It's okay. It's all right.
I haven't made any trades, man. So for me, like I can't really say anything on that area, man. But
you know what this is? You know what I'm doing right now?
What's that? That's a shameful.
The disappointed dad look.
Disappointed dad. Okay.
Yeah. Right. You disappointed me out here, pal.
I got some new toys today, man. I'm like so excited, bro. I'm so excited. Okay. All right. I'm back.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. All right. First buy for getting into week. And Tyreek Hill. Listen, Tyreek was also on this list last week, but he didn't have like the Tyreek game, right? He still hasn't really had that, in my opinion. So it's still an opportunity to go buy him. I think it's one of those situations where you're willing to, I'm willing to even put him as a so-called buy high candidate because we all know what Tyreek can do, right? We all know Tyreek Hill still has a bona fide top 5 wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? In terms of production, rest of season, no matter the matchup, Tyreek Hill is impeccably good still. 6 catches, 72 yards this past week, no touchdown. But again, I believe that's coming in matchups where they're going to have to consistently throw the ball. The Arizona game was a pretty decent one in terms of going the back and forth stuff. But obviously, like Miami players, when it comes to, this, we all bundle. We'll bundle Tyreek Hill. We'll bundle up Waddle here. We'll bundle up. I'm saying if somehow Tua's still on your waiver wires for upcoming week, like go grab him. I think systems go for Miami guys, like because Tua drives this offense. Anything to say along with everything I just said when it comes to Tyreek?
No, I don't have a whole lot to say, man. Obviously, to your point, he didn't set the world on fire last week, but I mean, he got you 13 points in a PPR format. So you can live with that, right? But just like I know, we all know, Tyreek is absolutely capable of throwing up a 40 burger on any week, man. So you may be able to buy Tyreek Hill from a team who's not completely out of it, right? And if you have made some moves on the waiver wire. This is a great opportunity for you to maybe package up some players like Nick was talking about and get Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle as well. All systems go for Miami. But you need to hurry up and be aggressive on that because that window is getting ready to close really daggone quick. Because I would imagine another week, another week of practice and another week of reps with Tua and Tyreek. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at, some 25, 30-point games here in our near future.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where if you're like, for example, if you have a plethora of running backs, like if you're somehow in a gold mine position, like I think Kenneth Walker straight up might get the Tyreek Hill owner thinking about it. And the reason why I said Kenneth Walker was because Kenneth Walker's on week 10 bye upcoming. So it's even more important to find a way to, if you have a player coming up on bye weeks, whatever have you, I think it's a good time to see if there's a better, if for example, like I just talked about Kenneth Walker, right? If you have another running back in depth spot, and then you're overall thinking about how can I upgrade somewhere, I think this would be a good time to think about that for players that are coming on by because, again, you get a little bit of an advantage to try to get ahead. And then it's like, okay, this person traded for this person, said person. But then it's like, all right, like I'll trade that person away. But then also it's like they're still stuck with their bye week. I'm not.
Yep.
So it's a perfect opportunity to just like, if you need to upgrade, that'd be the way to do so. I think Alvin Kamara straight up would be a little bit interesting because I think you could probably get away with that. I think, Jonathan Taylor maybe straight up for Tyreek Hill as well. I think those are, although the running backs I just mentioned may said to be a little less valuable. I think by people's perspectives, I think by name brand, I think they're in the same sentence.
JT, I think that one, I think you're right on with that one. I think Kamara, I think you kind of run into like this, like, all right, like, well, what are we really getting? Like with Carr and like with whoever it is they're going to throw out there at quarterback. But JT, I think you're spot on because I think everybody can kind of see now that like more likely than not this Indianapolis Colts offense is on its way up. So I like that JT for Tyreek Hill one.
Next by CMC. Christian McCaffrey, right? We all know that Christian McCaffrey is still a difference maker. The question is now, this is a little bit more, I mean, the next buy will be a little bit more interesting. But in terms of CMC, obviously he's the name brand. And obviously if you're in a position where maybe you're holding on to him potentially if you're really behind or whatever, or if you're way ahead and you want to see about just getting a CMC to see what happens, I'd be cautious about this in general, just because San Fran, they're just a weird organization. Like they don't even allow some of their beat writers, to get some decent info versus the rest of the leagues. And the last time we were, looking at injury reports for CMC and stuff like that before, he was ruled out for the season opener against the Jets, there was talk that, oh yeah, he'll be fine. It's 10-3. And all of a sudden, Monday night hits, and then it's like, oh, he's not playing this game. Oh, wait, by the way, he may have to go do some further things going on. And I was like, what? So, again, I've warned people about CMC going number 1. Like, if you felt you at 4 or 5 or 3, like, there'd be a little bit more like, all right, maybe I'll get him. Like, if you're in a league where we drafted in, where running backs like just flew off the board in the first round. Like, I guess that would make
first 4 picks, man. First 3 picks.
Crazy. It was crazy. It was wild. But in terms of talking about CMC, in terms about trading for him, I think what you need to be mindful of is not giving up too much. And what do I mean by that? Like, you want to give up someone or a combination of 2 players that you feel if you trade them away for CMC and it doesn't pan out for CMC, you're not going to lose out too much. So the question and problem comes because everybody values CMC and what he can bring to the table and what his ceiling outcome is. No one's not the person that has CMC is not going to just trade him away for just, pennies
on the
like
dollar.
a pick, like a Dobbins and a Pickens or, something like that. Like, let's say need some depth pieces. And depends on who you league. I would just knock on the door, CMC owner, and be like, hey, like, what are you looking for? Because now he's on bye, and everything. And now it's like even more where if that owner is like 3 wins, 4 wins max, and they have CMC, there could be definitely looking to pounce on this opportunity to try to see what they could get at their highest value. If I were looking to acquire a CMC, I think what would be interesting for me would probably be to, again, give a valuation of, all right, again, I could lose these players and then be cool with it. And then I feel it's still a good offer to send out. So, for example, I have T. Higgins. I have Pollard. 2 guys that would be depth pieces for that owner that would need some things to happen. And it doesn't feel like it's such a ripoff. A DJ Moore, and like, maybe a Rashad White potentially, because DJ Moore still has good name value on most people. So this stuff is going to obviously, when we're talking about trades, it's sometimes with a grain of salt, because you guys have to do the work, and we don't know what leagues you're in. We don't know what conversations are had. We don't know if your league trades on the often or not. I know I'm in some leagues that just crickets until a trade happens. Like today.
Yeah.
Like
no,
today.
I'm in those too.
But then all of a sudden, say you're in some leagues where it's trades are pretty frequent. So it depends on your speed of the league and how they trade. But in terms of CMC, Johnny, what do you say when it comes to valuations, your take on CMC in general, maybe your rest of the season outlook for him? Like, where do you stand when it comes to CMC?
I'm standing on business, the same place I've always stood on it.
Standing on business.
I love CMC, man, the player. I do. I just think like every piece of data was like against him this year. Every piece of data. His team losing in the Super Bowl, racking up that many carries. Like, it just like everything was against him. So for me,
Achilles
like, I don't
have too. As soon as you heard about the Achilles, you're like, ooh, that's coming back. It just like on him again. Ooh.
Like every piece of data was going against Christian McCaffrey. And, like if you play in enough leagues, you're going to bomb a couple drafts. I got 2 leagues where I completely bombed them. Thank you, Anthony Richardson. Thank you, Devontae Adams. Thank you. And my Scott Fishbowl team is terrible. It's so bad that I'm almost like, I don't even want to tell people I'm in the Scott Fishbowl. My team is so bad, they're going to ask me about it. And we're like, damn, bro, you drafted that? You on the internet talking about fantasy football? Damn, bro.
Yo, Bray Rock, what up? We'll get to your question in one moment. Feel free to like and subscribe. We'll definitely get to you in one moment. Continue, Johnny.
Yeah, man. But for me, I was just kind of like looking around at some players that I would consider, or I would think that hey, you can maybe take this player and maybe another player and package them up to see. You mentioned Tony Pollard. You could maybe go that way. I know one that would never ever that would just scare people away. DeAndre Swift, he's another name that to throw out there as well. He's a guy that's been
productive.
All of a sudden, look at it on the year now. All of a sudden, DeAndre Swift is a top 16 running back, and we definitely did not have that in. We didn't have that in the cards, man. Like him, you got Chuba Hubbard, Aaron Jones, which is probably a little bit too pricey, right? But those are the type of players that you're probably going to have to come off of if you're looking to try to get Christian McCaffrey. But for me, even if he comes back, and you make this move for him, my initial thought is man, wouldn't it suck to trade for this guy? And then in week 13 or week 14 by Mageddon, now on top of having to deal with the buys, now you got to deal with this guy potentially sitting out as well. And then their the schedule coming down the stretch as well. I shouldn't say coming down the stretch, but there's some tough games still left for them over the course of the season. Man, they still they got the Lions, I believe, in what would be the championship weekend. And they've still got the Rams, the Dolphins, the Bears, depending on what Buffalo Bills team shows up, the Packers, the 49ers. It's the 49ers, the Seahawks. So, there's some tricky teams in the mix there. And then you still have to worry, you're not getting full Christian McCaffrey value for me. So, he's just a guy that I can, to be real, man, I can do without.
And that's fair to say. I think and I have no problem with you saying that whatsoever, because it's one of those situations where if I am ahead in my league, it's a move that I would potentially look to make, because it's somewhere. Look, man, CMC is one of those guys that will we be shocked that if he comes back, let's just say maybe even misses week 10 against Tampa coming off the bye. Maybe he comes back week 11, gets a little bit more slow. He still gets more acclimated. And then by week 12 against Green Bay, he gets Buffalo after that. Chi-Town the week before most people's playoff start. Playoff matchup is Rams week 15, Miami week 16, week 17 is Detroit. I think in terms of playoff schedule, I think CMC is one of those guys that if I could have him for the playoffs and things are looking spry for the Niners, where they'll have to consistently look to play him. Let's just say they come off the bye, Tampa Bay does his thing against them. Tampa Bay pulls off an upset in San Fran. And then they beat Seattle. Green Bay beats them. And then all of a sudden, you're in a position where you got to get CMC out there in order to try to save your season or get it to a point where, you want to be better when it comes to playoff seeding. So there's a lot of scenarios where obviously it's very volatile, this move to buying CMC. Like, obviously, like there's ways this could completely go left, like it hasn't gone already. But there's also ways this thing can go right. And then all of a sudden, like depending on the rest of your roster construction, CMC is a guy that you all of a sudden, you gambled on and it paid off. So it's one of those situations where sometimes like you got to make some type of risky move in order to really try to amplify your team, better your odds in winning your championship leagues. So that's what that is all about. Last buy, before we get to the extra ones, is Travis Etienne. And Etienne is obviously, this is one of those situations where, I mean, look, you could probably get Travis Etienne thrown into a trade, and he's not even the main bitch. He's not even the main attraction of this trade. So that's what I'm saying. It's like I think we're getting to a point where, at some point, obviously, just buy low, sell high stuff. It's like stocks literally. And Travis Etienne stock is mega low. Like, I've seen people drop Etienne in some of my leagues, and these are 12-team leagues that people are dropping Etienne in. So there's that. So in terms of low, like obviously value wise, like Etienne is like one of those guys where we know the situation is not very ideal. He still has a bye week coming a couple more weeks. But honestly, I would just love to find out what whoever's holding on Etienne, what his value, like overall, how they look at Etienne. Because again, at the end of the day, I've seen him thrown into trades. Like he's not even a main beneficiary.
No,
like he's overall like thrown in as like on a 2-for-3 trade. He's the second piece on like a Lamb Etienne for like 3 pieces. Like it's just interesting how that goes. Obviously there's risk with this as well. But again, we don't play these leagues to be safe sometimes. They want to win. We want to try to win our leagues. And Tank Bigsby, it's obviously a bruiser, you know what I'm saying? First and second down running back. Etienne, when he gets back, I feel because Doug Peterson loves veterans, he still looked to play Etienne. And again, it still could be more of a split backfield and stuff like that, sure. And you could play that up while trading for him. But Etienne, still has upside and still have some opportunities. But what do you say to this?
Man, I like going into the season. I like Travis Etienne a lot, man. Like he was a guy last year that like I drafted in like the 5th round-ish or whatever, and he gave you back really good production last year. For where you drafted him at. But this year, man, running back,
he was going way too high.
Yeah, running back 39.
3rd round.
But running back 39 right now, bro. Like running back 39.
4.
Yeah, like dude, like he literally is like running back 4 right now.
Yeah, RB4.
So like, like you can buy this guy. Like you can buy this guy if you want to. And you can maybe play him in the flex. I would say Doug Peterson. Like you were mentioning about Doug Peterson playing his vets, right? Like he's playing his vets, but like what the next words out of my mouth is. How long is that gonna be? How long is that gonna be? You know what I mean? Like he might get that Christmas care package from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sorry, old Yeller, I gotta put it down.
Ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, man. I still think Travis Etienne is definitely a player, and obviously with a lot of the injuries now that have happened for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the receiver position. They're going to have to get creative with how they get their playmakers the ball. And no matter how we look at Travis Etienne and no matter what his fantasy value is right now on October 29th here at 8:35 p.m., he still has the ability to put up 20-plus points in a fantasy football game or fantasy football matchup. So if more likely than not, man, if you're trading with a Travis Etienne owner, they're probably out of it right now because, where you drafted him at, probably just haven't got the production, just to be quite frank, right? I think, hey, man, if you could do something small to get Travis Etienne to beef up your team coming down the stretch, I can agree. Like, I can absolutely buy into that because you're not having to give up a lot to get them. And maybe again, like this is where working the waiver wire comes into play, where you can maybe give, I don't know, man, maybe you can give a guy like, I don't want to say like Bucky Irvin, but like a player or somewhere in that ballpark that like you picked up off the waiver wire at some point in time this year, to be able to use. Like, like I would even say maybe even like a Rico Dow. You can maybe do something like that. Rico Dow and Zach Charbonnet, right? Those are two players that are like that are playing. Or maybe Rico plays if he's not sick, him, Anthony Richardson. But Zach Charbonnet, right? Zach Charbonnet so far has had a better year than Travis Etienne. Like, we didn't map it out like that, right? So I think there's definitely a lot of ways that you can look at this. I would even say like I don't know if I would necessarily go here, but even you think about like guys like Calvin Ridley, right? Just came off of a really big game. Like, this is a good time, like, to possibly like look at potentially moving him. Like, I'm standing pat with him because I believe in talent, but like for some people who don't, like, you could look at that. Maybe even a Christian Watson, right? Like, that's another one of my guys, man, that like hasn't lived up to the bill. So like, I think there's a lot of different ways you can get really unique and going after ATN. It's not going to cost you a lot. So I'll buy this one with you, man. I'll buy what you're selling on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those moves that we look at for like a hindsight purposes later on, where it's like I didn't give up much for a guy that everybody projected to be decent this upcoming year. And if anything else, Travis Etienne can still ride the bench till you find out what's going on. But giving up a bench piece, you know what I'm saying, for it. Like, would I trade straight up like JSN potentially? Sure. Calvin Ridley off the big game he just had. Sure. I can do that. So there's ways around acquiring because again, running backs are still a dime a dozen, especially with the guys that ETN. I know he looks volatile and whatnot, but I think he's someone that you can still make a good trade for while not jeopardizing the rest of your roster. We got the question that we will answer now, so we'll get to that right now. Ray Rock, appreciate the sub, my guy. Thanks for coming out. We really appreciate you. He's asking, should he trade his James Cook, Garrett Wilson, and Juwan Jennings for Lamb and Evans? If he's getting Lamb and Evans, that's very interesting. Because obviously Evans is out for another 3 weeks, 10, 11, 12, technically.
Yeah.
The good news is it's a hamstring. No, it's not exactly good news, but it's
Mike Evans did this song and dance before hamstrings, man. Yeah, he did this song and dance with hamstrings. Like, he had bad hamstrings coming into the year. We all knew it, and we knew we could pencil him in for double-digit touchdowns. So
yeah, it's unfortunate that he got an injury, and he probably that 1,000-yard receiving record is definitely in jeopardy. Consecutive is in jeopardy. I would love to know, first of all, is this just a straight PPR league, Bray Rock? Is it a standard league? And then also would love to know the rest of your roster too. But in terms of the question, just for what it is, I feel like it's a little bit of a lot of depth. A little bit too much depth, in my opinion, to give up for just Lamb and eventually Evans. Especially if Bray Rock's team is not in a position to, if he needs to win now, unless he's in a position that is like more like I just want someone to be more bona fide a receiver. That makes sense. But I would potentially do this move if I'm set at not only running back, but also I feel comfortable about the rest of my receivers.
Yeah, I think, man, like, I look at this and I think James Cook, man. James Cook is a guy I think, like, I missed on him, like, this year with somebody. Yeah. I was more into Ray Davis and still into Ray Davis, to be honest, than James Cook. But James Cook has looked pretty damn good all year long.
Yeah.
And I think Garrett Wilson, goes without saying, like, as crazy as it sounds now, like, maybe it was just better for him in this specific situation with the quarterback play of the Jets right now, for him not to be relegated, but for him to have a running mate, if you will, opposite of him. So I think you're still going to be able to get solid production from Garrett Wilson. And then Jawan Jennings, I think Ricky Pearsall looked good on Sunday night, man. He actually looked pretty good. Yeah, he looked good. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And then CeeDee Lamb, man, for me, it's really weird because him and Dak have looked off all year long. And I think if it just wasn't for garbage time, if this was a close ball game, I don't know if you would have still got the same production. The great news for you, though, Bray Rock, or the great news for whoever CeeDee Lamb owners are, the Cowboys suck, and my Pittsburgh Steelers lost to them. So I think you're going to get a lot of garbage time looks from Dak to CD. And Mike Evans, we've been talking about, man, the Buccaneers, man, just the way it's set up for them, they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I still think it's a little bit too much because you're giving up, in my opinion, a RB1, a wide receiver 2, and potentially a wide receiver 2-3 with Jawan Jennings, depending on how it shakes out. I think it's just a little bit too much. I just think it's a little bit too much, man. For my liking right now, because what's your phrase about trading for the hurt players? I always forget it every week.
Hospital chasing.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, it's just one of those moves where it's I feel like you're making just giving up a tad bit too much, and that's just kind of how I see that. But I mean, look, if it was taking. If it was a Cook and Jawan Jennings for CeeDee Lamb, I'm all for that. I just think the Mike Evans owner, getting pushed into this, and then Garrett Wilson, it's I won't have him for a couple of weeks. It's starting to get crunch time, and it's I don't want to be trying to trade for someone just coming off the injury. Nico Collins a little bit different, only because we know he has a later bye week, and then it's after that bye week, it's all right, then I got the semifinal and the playoffs. Week 14 is gonna be, it's also interesting as well, but for people who have bye weeks. But I mean, look, all the guys he has right now are gonna have bye weeks soon, and that's the only reason why I may want to just get a guy like CeeDee Lamb. But I wouldn't make this move just yet because, like you said, James Cook's been looking too good, and Garrett Wilson, for as much as the Jets have been awful. Garrett Wilson's still a guy that I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 every week. So, I would try to find a way to maneuver around that.
I mean, right now, just taking a look at it, points per game, number 6 in the league, man, as far as PPR points, man, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb's at 4. So, I mean, I don't, Yeah,
I mean, look, CeeDee Lamb is a wide receiver 1 overall this past week. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's and then you're getting Evans. So I can understand it, but it's also I'm giving up 3 for 1 right now. And it's technically 2 for 1 because Jawan Jennings is on bye, but it's still I mean, it's nice to get the best overall player sometimes in a trade, but other times it's it has to be within reason. Benjamin's asking, should I prioritize picking up Otten or Ladd? I have Bowers, but I'm worried about not having a good tight end next week. Yeah, like we talked about, Raiders are on bye week 10. And that makes sense. I think because tight end is such a position where it's touchdown or nothing. Yeah, it's touchdown or nothing right now. And that's what it usually is, tight end. I wouldn't necessarily worry about Bowers going on a bye week because I'm guessing that if Otten's still out there in the waiver wire, there's got to be some other tight ends still as well out there.
Right.
So I would prioritize Vlad because he doesn't have any more bye weeks. Otten still has a bye week upcoming along with Bowers. So that's where I want to prioritize Vlad. I really think that the Chargers, since their bye week, they've went from a consistently run-oriented team to, so they were a negative passer team before the bye. Now they're at plus 4% passer rate, since then. So it's one of those situations where I want Ladd because, especially for a PPR league, we all know he's going to be the wide receiver 1. Ladd finally had his coming out party, and I was so excited because I landed him in a trade a couple weeks ago, and I was just fired up to have Ladd McConkey. So in terms of Ladd, Like, he was a wide receiver 2 this past week overall. Like, I want to prioritize that because I think there's better games. There's still, we know there's a ceiling now at Lad. Before, it was like he didn't even hit 100 yards over receiving just yet. He didn't have more than 6 catches in the game this past week. He had both this past week. We know there's a ceiling. I know Kaden is going to still benefit, but that's eventually going to somewhat die out when Evans comes back. And I just think that prioritizing Lad would be really beneficial. What do you say, Johnny?
I actually agree with you, man. I think so, because I think tight end is one of those 1Z positions, and you already have a leg up on the rest of the field, man, and having the number 1 tight end with Brock Bowers, right? Like, so you already have a leg up. So, like, this is just an opportunity for you to strengthen your team a little bit more at wide receiver. You know, Lad is a young lad, so obviously he'll be playing, should be playing a little bit like later on, right? And like the Chargers, like, who knows, man? They still might have something to play for, and maybe at some point in time, you know, Captain Comeback, Mr. Harbaugh, he might come to a realization that, like, hey, man, Justin Herbert can still actually sling that thing for sure. And
I think we're already here.
Yeah, like and when that happens, man, you know, you might have somebody who might be able to swing the pendulum for you, man, as far as your team goes. Because, like, we're at that place now, man, where, like, I remember when I was younger in high school, man, one of my ADs would always say, like, the stars of today, you know, meaning like the younger kids, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade aren't going to be the stars of tomorrow, you know, 11th, 12th grade, etc. And I think that's kind of where we're at, man. It's like some of the players that we believed in August, they're not going to win championships for you in December and January. So I think we're officially at that place.
We are. We certainly are. We got to change where our expectations for certain players were, and it's now, you know, again, like we have all the data now, so now it's where it's like, okay, like we got to see what's going on in the field. So yeah, I mean, picking up Lad would be a lot more sense to prioritize this week over Otten. But again, look, you double check your waiver wires as soon as the waivers are out, because you just never know who's going to be left sitting there. So because that's trust me, you'll never know.
Sometimes you know, you never know. Sometimes you know, you never know.
You never know. Extra buys for this upcoming week. Like I said, we smashed this past week. So this week we got some names on here that are guys that I'm seeing in some leagues that are just getting tossed around left and right. We got Kamara, we got, you know, ETN, we already talked about. Nico, we got Neighbors, we got Cup still on this list. We got Ken Walker here. You know, Jaden Reed is on here. Waddle, Adams, Madison, Jones, Aaron Jones. What do you say to this list, Johnny? Anybody popping out for you in terms of priority?
Yeah, man. Like, if I was going to be trying to buy anyone like on this list, obviously, man, I'm a sucker for Green Bay Packers player. So Jaden Reed, you know, I was all in on Christian Watson this offseason. That's not looking so hot for me. But I was also all in on Jordan Love. So as an extension of that, definitely give me Jaden Reed on this list for sure. I think Jalen Waddle falls into the same category we were talking about with Travis Etienne. Like, you could probably get him for a little of nothing at this point, because he just hasn't done anything for anybody. And, you know, like, one of those breakout games has got to be coming. And I don't think people are like, if you got Malik Neighbors, there's no way you're coming off of him. And if if people are selling Ken Walker, shame on them. Shame on them. The guy that I do like low-key on this list, and I might be a mild psychopath, I'm dressing all black tonight, Alexander Madison, man. Like, he's actually looked okay, man. Like, I mean,
I called this a couple weeks ago.
He's looked okay.
When we were on...
I think it's probably the Sunday morning show, probably, because I'm pretty sure, like, I ended up playing him in one of my DFS lineups, one of my singles, and it actually worked out for me. Like, I ended up cashing. It wasn't solely because of him, but it's just because nobody else was getting to him. But like I think we're getting to a place where, like, you know, with the Raiders, and especially like you said, like, he's on a bye, so like maybe you can finagle something. Okay, so maybe you can finagle something before the bye and get him for low, but he actually has looked really good. Those are some names for me that really pop. Or like I said, Jaden Reed, Alexander Madison. And like I would just throw a filler out there for Jalen Waddle and just to see like, could I possibly snag him?
Yeah. I mean, look, we talked about earlier with Tyreek. We talked about Waddle. He's on here. He's someone I'm going to prioritize this week because I know that game is coming for him with Tua at quarterback. Like we've seen a couple of times before. It's just more like, again, it's just can he stay healthy? Like at least, this past week he had 18% of targets, so in the Miami offense. And I just think with Waddle, it's one of those scenarios where he's not going to cost so much to acquire.
Mm-hmm.
Because people still are in their feelings probably about he hasn't produced yet and stuff like that. And some of these I've seen him dropped. So before Tua came back. So it's definitely
And
there.
He's got well, I shouldn't say pretty, but the next handful of games, man, should be okay for him because he's got the Rams. Well, he's got the Bills, but he's got the Rams, the Raiders. He's probably not going to get the Christian Gonzalez treatment. The Packers, your Jets have been giving it up to everybody left and right. The Texans, the 49ers. So I'm right there with you, bro. Like I think this is one we might want to move on.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and then also, Reed is interesting because back-to-back games of him still looking a little abysmal, for whatever reason. But I think there's a great time to buy Jayden Reed. In terms of, we all know when Jordan Love gets back, he may not play this week, but anyway, I think he said it was day to day with the groin, so we'll see. But I think because of that injury, potentially, it's like you should probably be throwing the ball a little underneath more, and that's where Jayden Reed should be shining. So I think that's a nice under the radar move as well. Same thing with Nico. He's going to be a little bit more like, all right, like might be a little bit more expensive than he was last week, but this is the time where you can grab Nico Collins as well if you need a receiver. And then Kamara is someone that I'm not like actively looking to buy, but I think in some formats makes sense to buy because with Kamara, it's like, staying with the Saints, got the extension. And the Saints, obviously no Shaheed for the rest of the year now. So it's one of those things where I think buying into Kamara, and seeing I think he's going to be a little bit more expensive to buy on, but I think it might be worth it, especially if we see like a game where out of nowhere, like Kamara gets 11 catches out the backfield, like they've used him in prior seasons before.
Yeah,
and then you're like, oh my gosh, like there it is. Like there's the game.
It's happening.
There it is.
It's
like,
happening.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's happening. So I mean, look, he had 11 targets last week, season high. So 6 catches, 55 yards. So I mean, it's one of those situations where I can be actively looking to get him because again, the Saints don't have much on offense right now going.
They don't, bro.
They really don't. Going to the cells now. Going to the cells. We got dirty a little bit when it came to running backs. Just because first guy on the list is definitely have a shelf life, and we're talking about Kareem Hunt. With Kareem Hunt, talking about a guy that literally is, right now looking spry. I couldn't believe there's people. I couldn't believe people really like down Kareem Hunt. Like they compared him to Dalvin Cook and stuff, and I was like, no way. At least when he was looking at Cleveland, he looked okay. He was catching passes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Cleveland was just Cleveland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Kareem Hunt knows the Kansas City system. So I'm happy that he's been balling out, but time is definitely ticking. Pacheco's gonna be coming back soon enough. And again, you could rock out maybe one more week with Hunt, maybe one more. You think one more week, maybe 2 at the max?
I would say, yeah. I would say,
yeah,
at least 2. Yeah.
Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football, and then they get Denver, and then probably expecting Pacheco to be back week 11 for that matchup against Buffalo potentially. And I'm not saying that Kareem Hunt's going to go from being the starter to then like fizzing out. He's just not as usable RB2 status. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Then he goes from being RB2 status to then like a middling RB3, like volatile flex.
Yeah.
So where it's like, I think now is the time to see like if you can grab something for him, something decent, hopefully. But if not, grabbing something of value for Kareem Hunt would be just beneficial. Any names come to mind, Johnny, in terms of like who you may want to trade for in terms of if you're acquiring Kareem, like, if someone's acquiring Kareem Hunt just for this week because they just need a running back, or, just in terms of what, if you have Kareem Hunt and you're looking to actively trade him, like, I think, I don't know. I mean, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, that's a hard one, man. Like, that's so hard because I'm just like, because like for me, like, I don't know, and I think this is like what makes this thing work between you and I is like, I'm always like, yo, like I picked this cat up for a reason. Like I picked him up for a reason. Like whether it's like to fill a void or
you
to ride it out. Yeah, you always trying to cash in, man. You're always trying to cash in. I don't know, man. I'm just thinking about like, I don't know. I mean, we talked about him maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe guys like maybe a Cortland Sutton. Maybe at this point, maybe that's a place for you to visit somewhere like in that ballpark. I was thinking tight end was kind of like my first initial thought when we were like, all right, like what would you give up? Like a healthy Jordan Love. I like, to think like maybe like Tucker Kraft. I like to think there. Kyle Pitts had a showing this week. You know what I mean? So like, I think, when I think about Kareem Hunt and maybe having just only another 2 games left max, I think like, what does it look like at tight end? You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like? And then shoot, who knows, man? Like maybe you have, maybe you can find a Jordan Love owner, and maybe see if you can, finagle, something of that nature, right? Like obviously, like depending on what your quarterback situation is. So I think it's a weird spot to be in because you almost have to look, in my mind, to like upgrade like one of these onesie positions or either like try to possibly get like a wide receiver 3 or something like that right there is kind of where my initial mind and gut goes is to something. Michael Pittman, I think that's another name, right? That's a name that like
that's interesting.
Yeah, like that I'm just like
interesting.
Yeah, I mean Michael Pittman is a guy
Khalil Shakir, maybe.
Yeah, like I think like you're looking in that ballpark for guys that like you can essentially like put into a flex spot and feel comfortable, like not comfortable, but like like all right, like they're gonna play, like they're gonna get some looks, like they should be able to get me 10 points in a PPR format in America and be able to ride off, man.
Yeah, I like that. I think if I'm looking to acquire a receiver, some of the names you mentioned was actually pretty spot on. I would include Shakir. I would include Jameson Williams.
There we go.
I would include Myers. I think Myers. I would include Myers in the low because he's probably the best outside of Brock Bowers. He's the best option for receivers.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's definitely one of those under the radar like type of looks. And then even Jordan Addison, if I need a receiver.
I like
you know what I'm saying?
Play. Not just, him, but I like that setup. KLC. Yeah. I like that setup. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Been slow, but that's all right. I still like the setup.
Yeah, I mean, those would be some guys. If I need a tier up from running back, Travis Etienne. Just see if we could drop Travis Etienne. Let's see it.
Okay.
Eventually, and maybe Ramondre Stevenson if people were like, getting a little goose.
Man, I wish somebody would.
No, I'm just saying. So there's ways around this stuff, and then you can also include Kareem on your 2-on-3 trades or whatever, and find out
Roma Dunze.
That would be interesting. It's just more like
it's like that's
a little bit more tough for the stomach, but
we're throwing it.
I got you. Next sell high is Bucky Irving, and it's not exactly. He's a sell high because we want to just gauge the temperature of people in your leagues. Because Bucky Irving is one of those guys that you could hang on to Bucky Irving if you really want to, because he plays a different role than Rachaad White. Obviously, we know Sean Tucker is pretty much like on the outside looking in, unless an injury happens. So he's like, on the stash list. But Bucky Irving, he's looked really good. The guy that came from Oregon looked pretty good. Go figure. But look, with Bucky Irving, it's not it's not for like lack of production. It's just again, like we all know the Bucks still kind of want to divvy up the backfield a little bit. It's not like a sole breadwinner here. But I think with Bucky Irving, it's just one of those situations where I don't think he'll ever get a snap percentage share of more than like 65. So he'll always be him and Rashad White, and always maybe mix in Sean Tucker here and there. So again, it's one of those situations where yeah, he is somewhat the bell cow in this situation. But he's someone that I want to just see what I can get for him, especially with the bye week and a couple weeks coming. But what do you say to to Bucky Irvin, his outlook? Am I right? Am I right? Do you feel the same way? Do you feel something different? Like
Bucky, Captain Bucky O'Hare. Yeah, man. Like, for me, man. Yeah, you know I do. I'm just hanging on to him, man. I have him. I have him in my home league here, and I'm hanging on to him.
and what's your record in that league?
5-3. So
okay, all right.
So roster is Jordan Love, Ken Walker, Breece Hall, Chris Olave, Drake London, Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley, and George Pickens. So that's my kind of team, man. It ain't sexy, but you just can't have a bad week against me, because if you have a bad week against me, I'm gonna beat you. So that's the way I like it. But yeah, like as a running back 3, like on your roster, like which is depending on obviously your situation. If he's your running back 3, you got to hang on to him, man. I mean, like, what do you like? Unless you can significantly upgrade the position, like you got to hang on. But like if you got him running out there like as your running back 2, like yeah, okay, like yeah, see what's going on out there, man. But like ultimately, again, like it seems like it's been a running theme for this show tonight. Is like Tampa Bay is going to be in shootouts. They're going to be in games where like there's going to be points being put up on the board. And if they are inside of the red zone, like Bucky Irving is going to be the guy. So like, yeah, like maybe you might be able to sell high on him possibly, but I think this is a situation too. It depends on where the season goes for the Buccaneers here over the next handful of weeks, right? Like it really depends on that. If it goes well, then obviously Bucky Irving is still going to be playing. I think even if it doesn't go well, I still think he's going to be out there, maybe in a more exclusive role. Who knows, man? Right? So I'm not selling high on Bucky unless I have him. Like, unless he's like a running back 2 for me, and then I might explore my options, see like how maybe I can upgrade my team. But if he's at a running back 3 for me, I'm all good, man.
Fair enough. Last sell high we got is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs of the Packers. Johnny, why is he a sell for you?
He's a sell high for me, man, just because the last 2 weeks he's had 3 touchdowns. Malik Willis is obviously getting more likely than not. Well, we don't know, but just Jordan Love, you got to protect him at this point in time. And I feel like with the Packers now, like the weather's starting to kind of turn a little bit. They're going to try to want to lean on the run, but he's got some tough sledding ahead of him. He's got the Lions, the Bears, the Niners, the Dolphins, the Lions again. The Seahawks is the easiest spot that he has. The Saints and Vikings. So he's got 2 easy spots in there, but those other spots are all tough spots. And this is a great time to get rid of them off of a multi-touchdown game. He's also been getting a little bit of work in the passing game as well. So for me, I just think about it and I'm like, all right, like when is there ever going to be a time to be able to get rid of Josh Jacobs? And it seems like right now is the best time to get rid of him after he just played, the get right team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and got right. So now I feel like it's a really good time to move off of him and try to see, what you can do to upgrade your wide receiver position or even your running back position as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what is like the interesting part about Jacobs is because it's someone that I would look to sell high if the situation presents himself where I'm getting a decent like winning a trade with Josh Jacobs in it. If I'm selling him off, the problem with like selling him off is like he still can produce this way in terms of like there's like would it shock you to say that Josh Jacobs, like if we were looking at it down the stretch for Josh Jacobs, I think he could still be like a workhorse running back in his offense. So it's something that I don't exactly want to give up per se, because a guy like Josh Jacobs with 25 carries season high. Nope, sorry. Take that back. Not a season high.
Just another day at the office. Just another day at the office.
Second. 2 touchdowns was a season high. On the ground, and then 1 through the air. That was a season high. So with Josh Jacobs, like we've seen the ceiling. Another player we've seen the ceiling. 1 more week until the bye, and then it's like, all right. Then it's Green Bay. Like you said, Green Bay is going to be one of those offenses that we're going to look to, or have shown us that they could consistently score still. So he's not someone I would just just sell high, like just to sell him high. He's someone that I would need to get a significant, like a good amount for him, because the schedule, like especially for the playoffs, week 15 Seattle, week 16 New Orleans, week 17 Minnesota, for the championship. So it's one of those scenarios that I may, just like with you at Bucky, I probably won't be selling Josh Jacobs to the extent of just like doing so. It's like I have to get a specific player in return that I feel like I can really rock with the rest of the season. Because Josh Jacobs is one of those running backs we're just holding on to as an RB2 potentially as well. So it's not like I'm in a dire straits if I have Josh Jacobs, but it's like, can he continue something like around this pace? It's potential. Yeah, he has potential to do so.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Josh, you have Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
Would you trade Josh Jacobs for CMC?
No.
Okay. Just
straight up, no.
Okay.
Because look, both offenses are still somewhat in that category where I talked about still high power potent offenses. And when it comes to, especially with CMC, we just talked about way too many outcomes that could potentially come out of it. Where I know, if anything, Josh Jacobs is still a top 12 running back rest of the season.
Yep.
CMC, we have no idea how that's going to go. But obviously, it's one of those scenarios I probably try to counter to be like, all right, maybe not Josh Jacobs, but someone along the lines of in that category and a receiver. There you go.
What would you be looking for? What would you be looking for, like, in return for Jacobs?
For Jacobs, I would probably say, like, for the rest of the season, like, if I could grab someone like, I mean, one of the Rams receivers straight up potentially.
Okay. All right.
Like a Cooper Kupp or a Puka Nacua.
Right.
I think DK Metcalf straight up will be something I may want to buy into. Because both those guys have the same bye week too.
Okay.
So there's definitely ways around it. Like, would I buy into like Debo straight up for Josh Jacobs? That'd be interesting. But as far as like a 2-on-2 trades or whatever have you, like I'd want to get a guy like, if I was gonna get somebody back in return, give me an H-An, like, a little bit more higher up the list. So there's ways around.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. No, that's cool.
There's ways around it.
Yeah.
Would I take James Cook straight up? That'd be definitely an interesting conversation too. So yeah, there's ways around. There's ways around it, but it's like Josh Jacobs is still one of those pieces via trade value that still holds weight in trades. So that's where it's like it becomes a little bit more like more opinionated based on who you are, and what position you're in. But Josh Jacobs still a guy that I would want to acquire, even as an RB1 if I need to.
That's fair.
Extra sales on the list. Bigsby, because with Bigsby, it's one of those situations where Jaguars aren't going to see the same game scripts with Bigsby to be the alpha running back consistently. He's talented. I like him. He's just more of a sell because I know there's still some name recognition I could take advantage of. That people may still want to ride with that. I personally, if I have him on the rosters, I don't. Tucker Kraft's on here. Pittman, we talked about a little bit earlier. Chuba Hubbard. Deontay Johnson on this list. Now he's a Raven. The Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, man. What a shit.
I lost what little respect I had for them, man. Already.
It's terrible, yo. This is shit. It's just
terrible.
Yo, 5th round pick, really? I mean, I got something for him, but good Lord, come on,
terrible.
people. He could have like I'm really shocked that Houston didn't land him, or like another just even Pittsburgh. You know, I can go back to Pittsburgh.
I didn't think he was gonna find his way back in Pittsburgh. I didn't. No.
J.K. Dobbins on this list, Keon Coleman's on this list, and then Javonte Williams is on this list. Priority wise, do you have any of these guys in your leagues, by the way?
Deontay, I've got in one, and Tucker Kraft, I think I might have in one.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Priority wise, who are you? These names, who would you really look to sell?
Probably J.K. Dobbins, probably. Okay. That probably would be just because I know out of all the players on this list, he's the one that's probably going to bring me back a player with the most value. I think I am a little bit higher on Tucker Kraft and Michael Pittman, I think, than you are. I think we kind of, have kind of hinted at that a little bit throughout the conversation.
It's an ever-changing conversation.
Always. Always.
Pittman especially, because now Flacco started. So now I'm going to change my tune on him again. I have to change my tune on the Colts receivers again.
Right.
Because with Flacco, like I said a couple weeks ago, with Flacco starting, give me some of these Colts receivers now. We could even start tight ends now. But Anthony Richardson was like, I can't do much with this.
Yeah. But even with Tucker Kraft, right? More likely than not, maybe you get a better version of not a better, but maybe you get Jordan Love, maybe you don't. And if you don't, then that changes things. I still believe this. It looks like Tucker Kraft, from a tight end spot, is a really, really good play when Jordan Love is upright and he's healthy. But the rest of these guys, I think Chuba Hubbard, I think Chuba Hubbard, I think we definitely have reached the sell point with him as long as Bryce Young is back there playing. And Keon Coleman, if you can still get anything for him, man, that's cool because freaking Amari Cooper,
time.
Yeah, gave me the brown bag special and burned me last week. You know what I mean? So, and then Javonte obviously coming off of a great game against Carolina. Like I said, for me, the guys I'm really that I think could bring back the best value would be J.K. Dobbins for sure, or maybe even a Chuba Hubbard if you can, kind of sell that dream to somebody just based off of what he's been able to do.
Sell that dream to somebody.
Yeah, sell that dream, man. Sell it.
What about your boy Javonte, huh?
I still rock with Javonte. I still think,
boy,
I still rock with him, man. I don't have him in any leagues. I still think, again, man, if he's your RB3, and again, depending on what you got at running back one, right? It's all right. I'm not going out and trying to get him by any stretch of the imagination. But if somebody sent me a trade that I thought was reasonable, I would take it. I do have him in one league, and he actually is my RB2. Because actually my RB3, because I have Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and Javonte.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
Good problem to have.
Yeah. So but the rest of these guys, Michael Pittman, I'm interested in acquiring Michael Pittman just because I feel like the price is going to be right about now, and I don't think that he has still been utilized, obviously, Anthony Richardson in his shitty quarterback play. I think Joe Flacco is going to bring out a better version of him. Joe Flacco. Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, I think can definitely do some damage out there on the outside. And you got to remember, too, right? A lot of these games with Joe Flacco, I'm not even sure if he's even had JT with him. I don't think he's had him with him except for that Pittsburgh game. That's the only game. So you still haven't had JT along with that. And I'm in on a couple of these Colts receivers for trying to get them for the low, man.
Makes sense. So I got one thing left to add before we move on. Extra buy.
Henry. Boy, here we go. Go.
Look,
let's get spicy.
Yeah, no, it's not spicy. Yo, you got to give up the haul to see if we can get for King Henry, because you gotta test some people, man. That's all I gotta say. You gotta test some people out here, because there's gonna be some people that are not gonna.
You gotta pop out and show
No, they're not gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna hold on to him, whatever. I'm gonna hold on to him, obviously. Like, they're gonna hold on for dear life. But there's some people out there that could potentially let him go just because, again, like it's totally possible. I've seen it.
Man, that was some crazy stat, man. Like I saying, like I can't remember what it was, but there was some crazy stat that was like basically like your odds of winning your league by having the running back one, or like something like 70 or 80% like chance like for you to like win your league if you have the running back.
Legendary upside. I think
and just imagine if you were in a draft with some jerk that took Derrick Henry in the 3rd round and you were like, yeah, I mean, that would kind of suck, man. That would kind of suck. That would kind of suck. I know. I know. Big stage, man. Big players making big plays out here. You know how we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Saquon Barkley going off this week. Oh God. Waiver wire week 9. We got top waiver QBs. Knicks leads the list. We got Stafford, Winston, if he's still out there, because he still should be, he's probably still out there in a ton of leagues. I think he was out there. I think it was 25% sleeper owned.
Sounds
I believe so. Something like that. And then we have for deep leaguers, we got Malik Willis. So all these guys here, I think all these guys potentially, outside of Malik Willis for your standard leagues, like it's definitely startable depending on who you got. Excuse me. So we talked about Bo Nix at the start a little bit. QB9 in the year so far. And like I said, Jameis Winston, who he is. No, he's way more owned. I mean, way less owned, I should say.
I was about to say, he better be.
It's sleeper leagues. He's available in 89% of leagues availability.
Yeah, checks out.
Boy.
Checks out.
And Stafford got his weapons back, and amazing what happens with QBs when they get their full-fledged weaponry back, right? First game of the year where Stafford thrown for more than 2 touchdown passes in a game or more. Look, I think Stafford is one of those guys. I think the Rams are going to look to make a run. I don't think they're trading Cooper Kupp. There was talks about Cooper Kupp getting traded and whatnot. I didn't believe that for a second. So I didn't believe that really for a second. So
I was hoping. That's all I could do. Hoping. I could do.
It would have been interesting to see Russ Wilson and Cooper Kupp together. I ain't gonna lie. It would have been interesting.
It'd have been cool.
I think Jameis Winston in for another start this week. And I think, QBs, depending on your league size and depending on what league, what QBs are out there, these are probably just the ones that are available the most. People could do some wild things out there, like drop Mahomes or something like that. Like, it's just double check your waiver wire. We'll add Flacco to the list now, actually, because thinking about it for deeper leagues, people probably toy with the idea of keeping him on a bench or whatnot. But for deeper leagues, Flacco deserves to be on this list as well, just because he's a nice bridge starter that's going to see work and stuff. So, Johnny, what do you say in terms of these QBs? Like, anyone you might be really prioritizing? Like, I know you like your Bo Nix, but
Yeah, I'm not really in a situation where I need a quarterback in any leagues. Pretty much, either got Sam Darnold, repping KOC, or I already have Joe Flacco stashed on the bench. But like if I was looking at anybody, man, I think Matt Stafford would probably be the guy I would be looking at, man. I think what you're gonna get. Like they have something to play for. Like this offense now is going to look a lot different, with having Coop Cup and, Poop on the outside. I think with Bo Nix, I think you're going to get peaks and valleys, right? And you're looking for consistency. Matt Stafford's the guy. Jameis Winston, I think it's a very similar situation too, where you're going to get some peaks and valleys with him. He's going to throw some picks. Maybe he's become a better quarterback, maybe with the time that he's had. I mean, it was a few years ago, I think, when he was in New Orleans, he was actually playing really good football before he tore his ACL. Malik Willis, I think we know what to expect. I say this, and the guy's probably going to go out and throw for 343 yards on Sunday. But, more likely than not, you can probably expect about 120 yards passing, 40, 50 yards rushing, probably a healthy dose of Josh Jacobs again, probably a 17-10 win. that's what. So for me, as far as prioritization, it's going to go Matt Stafford, Flacco, Winston, and then I would go Bo Nix and Malik Willis.
Cool. Makes sense to me. So top waiver RBs. Before we get to that, these running backs should all be owned. And if they are not, and they're still on your waiver wire, you need to run and get those guys tonight.
Quick, fast.
Tyrone Tracy, I know he's dealing with concussion. Ray Davis, Gorendo, even though he's on bye. Algier, because he's, it's something we're having a Bijan. You should have him. Braylon Allen. Same thing with Jag Wright. I said Jag Wright.
I was like, wait, what are you saying?
Just in case something were to happen to Mo Storage and like all these guys here should definitely be owned. As high leverage handcuffs, whether it be your handcuff for your own running back or just somebody else's. That they should be owned for sure. We're going to the top waiver RBs. It's pretty shitty this week, I'll be honest. We got, Vidal for the Chargers. We got Corum, Lloyd, who could still maybe find his way into this Green Bay backfield later on in the year. We got Benson, we got Dearness Johnson, and we got your favorite, Pierce. Damian Pierce. So, did I miss any guys that you were seeing? Because running backs are definitely scarce this week. There's definitely not. It's starting to get to that time of year where it's like things are drying up for the running backs.
Like you didn't miss anything. I think like just a call out, and I don't want anybody to like take my advice on this.
Charbonnet, if he's still out there, he's got to get.
Yeah, you got him, but I think something's got to happen like with the Dallas backfield, right? Like they can't continue to trot out these old men every single week, right? Like between
Rico, I think when I was checking, I think Rico is still pretty highly owned.
He's still pretty highly owned, but even still, you never
make a trade. You think?
Maybe like Miles Sanders is somebody I've kind of tossed around in my head. I'm like, oh well, like that.
Oh God,
bro!
I'll make it even worse.
It'll make it worse, man. But holy crap, man!
Don't trade for Rashad White or something.
Maybe, man, maybe.
We said this all year long about Dallas. It's like they didn't do anything to help out this offense. They just expected to just copy and paste. You know what I'm saying? From what they did
maybe the same thing we were just talking about. I'm going to be dramatic because, of course, apparently I am, but. What about the Jets, dude? They suck so bad right now. Do the Cowboys go and try to do they try to go get Braylon Allen from the Jets now, man? Is that a thing? Of course you'll say no because you want to hoard on to every single piece of talent that you have because you think Aaron Rodgers is the problem.
Braylon Allen's.
Your whole team's a problem. But just overall, right? Do the Cowboys they're still in that space? Do they make a move to try to go get a running back in some capacity?
I think they have to. They have to.
There's that.
They have to. I gotta say, that's good. I'm glad you called that out because I think that's something we all need to pay attention to because we all know Dallas cannot run the football whatsoever. Their offensive line is looking shaky in terms of just opening holes and whatnot. So again, it's something that we got to keep in mind when it comes to. I think we have couple more weeks to the official NFL trade deadline's over, right?
Week 10 or something like that right there, I feel like.
Yeah, technically we have a week left technically.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's something that we're gonna have to monitor because whether it be, look, even go get Algier from Atlanta or something, or just something where it's you'll get Tajay Spears from Tennessee. It's all these guys that we're seeing on the waiver wire. Go and grab them. so we can selfishly put them on our team.
November 5th. Actually, it's November 5th is the trade deadline. So
yeah.
But they got to figure out something, man. Because it's
true.
They ain't gonna win. Because I think
true.
Not to go on a rant.
Go trade for Alexander Madison.
Right, that's bro. That's a part of that is their problem offensively is they cannot run the ball. Who would have thought that Zeke Elliott was in a better situation running the football in New England than he would be with Dallas. That is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Anyway, I digressed.
It's crazy. Yeah, no, it's a very good point to bring up because I didn't necessarily think about it all like on the top of my brain, but it makes a ton of sense. Dallas has to make some type of move at the running back position. They have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, one more time, RBs that should be on. I added Charbonnet to that list, but these are some guys that you should all have in your rosters, whether it be from a handcuff situation or just guys that you just need to, something were to happen, like you got them. Receivers that you should also have in terms of these guys that should be owned. So Josh Downs should be owned if he's on the, so I know I see him on some waivers. Make sure he's a priority. Tillman obviously should be owned, but I know he's available in a lot of leagues because people didn't really know what the Cleveland situation was going to be like.
But we tried to tell you.
We definitely tried this. We definitely put Tillman on this list last week. So hoping people definitely paid attention to that, picked him up. I picked him up in a couple of leagues. Should have picked him up in more, but it is what it is. Juwan Jennings should be owned. McMillan should definitely be owned. Leggett should be owned. Tolbert should be owned because Dallas has to get something going outside of Ferguson and Lamb. So Tolbert could potentially be a spot start, especially this upcoming week against Atlanta, where that game should bleed point. Should
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like a lot of points should be scored in that game this week. I think the over-under right now is a 51.5 early on. So it's already it's already pretty high.
Air mail, bro.
Definitely. So tier 1, tier 2s this week. There's some other guys that, depending on your waiver wire, is going to be there. Tier 1, and it's more for if you need someone pretty much to start this week. These guys are most likely available. Parker Washington comes to mind because he played something similar to this role last year. When Kirk missed a couple of games last year, now Kirk is out for the year with a broken collarbone. Yeah. So it's a situation where I would take the flyer on Parker Washington to find out if there's more to him. They liked him coming out of the school he went to. I thought he went to Penn State, right? Didn't he go to Penn State?
Don't give me the line, bro. I don't know.
Don't
give me the line. Don't give me the line. If it's where I think it is, I'll say I was right. But if not, then I'll be like, no, totally not, man.
He did go to Penn State. State.
For some reason, I was gonna be like, oh, like he was in Louisville. So I don't know why I was thinking Louisville. I have no idea why I was thinking Louisville. No idea.
I know that's just funny though. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know who this guy is.
I ain't gonna
lie. But no, yeah. I mean, that's hilarious. 46 yards receiving for Washington last week in the effort when Kirk left the game. So him, Gabe Davis, probably guys to monitor / pick up. Because Jacksonville is going to still have to throw the ball in order to stay competitive in games. Jacksonville.
Did he get dinged up? Like
he got dinged up. I believe it was. Right. Was it shoulder? I think
he got dinged up because they were all of them are gone.
Yeah, they were all gone.
Yeah.
They say he's on track to play week 9, and it was a shoulder injury. So yeah, I mean, look, both of these guys, like Gabe Davis, like is purely going to be the outside X receiver. But for Parker Washington, especially for point, he's like a PPR scam, they say. He overall should be, collecting targets, collecting catches for the short intermediate role for Christian Kirk. So I think he's someone that's definitely worth picking up. How do you feel about the Houston Texans receivers there with Hutchinson and Mechie?
John Mechie, like in my heart, like that's where I want to go to. Like initially is with him. But like Hutchinson has been the guy that's been getting the run. But I do think it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with John Mechie, man, because like he was somebody that was really highly touted at Alabama. So like obviously I do know about him because he's an SEC guy. But he was somebody that was definitely highly touted, man. And obviously I believe he ended up having cancer or whatever, and he had to end up sitting out years. Yeah, so like it's So I'm interested to see how that whole situation shakes out. Hutchinson's obviously been on the field, but I'm going to take a stab at I'm going to take a stab at Michi just because, like I said, man, he's an SEC guy. Like I know what he brings to the table, and I think he just needs an opportunity. So I will be making some plays on him. Like if I have the roster space. For sure, and if not, then I'll definitely I'll look into some Hutchinson because one of these guys is obviously going to have a pretty big value with the Houston Texans as far as being on the field, snap sharing. Complete side note, maybe this is Dalton Schultz. Maybe it's time for him as well. I know we'll get to that a little bit later possibly, but yeah, that's where I'm going. And then like we talked about too, man, like Ricky Pearsall. He looked good, man, and maybe it was just him playing against the Dallas Cowboys. But for somebody who had just got shot, a few months ago, man, like he definitely looked really good for the 49ers. So that's an interesting take for me. And I think you have Elijah Moore on here. I just think Cedric Tillman. Yeah, Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy, and Joku. Could it possibly be a thing? Maybe, but I feel like I've been chasing Elijah Moore for years, man. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that out.
I know. Well, yeah, he has got to be put on here. You know what I'm saying?
No, he's got to be on here. Yeah. And I think Mike Wilson, man. For Arizona, he's somebody that I think even over the summer, right? Like he was somebody that kind of caught people's eye, him and Greg Dortch, but it looks like Michael Wilson is like kind of establishing himself as the number 2 guy. I think just physically, he brings a lot more to the table than Dortch does. So it's cool to see him and see him making plays for sure. One more week of Khalif Raymond possibly. Interesting enough, man, Coker. Like that's an interesting one. So I don't know what your take on him is, man, but like
he's a local kid in my area. He went to Holy Cross in Mass. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect segue.
Yeah, he played at Holy Cross. I was like, yo, what the heck? He played at Holy Cross. Okay. Oh yeah. I mean, look, like not every day you get people within the region. I know some people that went to Holy Cross. Like I was like, man, all right. So he gets this opportunity. But I honestly like the pick. That's a sneaky pickup. I think it's a sneaky pickup of the week because now that Deontay Johnson's gone, I think Coker could then slip into that spot that Deontay Johnson took over. And then when Andy Dalton comes back, he should be looking for him a little bit more. So I would love to see, the reason why I put him in tier 2 is because he still might be a player that people may not really know of too much. The guy's 6'3". He's a big body receiver. So it's not that, you had in garbage time, he had 4 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, look, I don't think Bryce Young is going to be – I don't even know. You never know. Bryce Young could still be rocked. I have no idea what Carolina Panthers are going to be doing. I have no idea. Yeah. Chuba Hubbard's not getting traded, they said. They're not trading J.C. Horn either, their best corner.
Yeah, I seen that too.
Which is a little shocking to me. But Carolina, I think I have no idea what to expect from this team. And then if Carolina is not looking great, why would they bring back Jonathan Brooks? So
they're not going to, bro. Like that.
Hoping that they don't do that. I have both of them handcuffed in some leagues, but I have Hubbard sometimes naked in some of these leagues, and I'm like, I just need Hubbard to just keep the job.
Hospital chasing, you called it, man. Hospital chasing.
Well, I said it. If in leagues where I drafted, Brooks, I just had to have Hubbard because I thought Hubbard was more to the that it met the eye for some people, especially on tape. You know what I'm saying? I think that's
I had him coming down the stretch last year, bro. He was solid for coming down the stretch last year,
Yeah. And for some best ball teams and stuff too, it was just easy money to keep on clicking the button on him. But now it's you're hoping that hopefully he can still return value for you, hopefully. And as long as Jonathan Brooks is out, Hubbard is still a starting running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
That can catch passes and stuff. So, but look, I know Elijah Moore has been burning us for years. I'm not putting any waiver claims or fabs on him, but he's someone I'm looking at after the waiver is clear, just because I think Jameis Winston's starting to look like a decent QB in general. And if he's starting to get the ball to Elijah Moore, who we know has some talent, I think he's someone that, because again of bye weeks, because of all these receiver injuries happening, I think Elijah Moore is someone that I would love to have after waiver claims because look, just like you and I'm sure he's burned a lot of people in the past as well. But he had 8 catches, 85 yards on 12 targets. You just kind of can't deny that at the moment. So
you know what I want to say. You know what I want to say about Elijah Moore.
He's fool's gold, but
well, other than that, that's what I want to say about him.
Okay, continue. All right, go.
I hate you, Jody.
Oh God! How'd I know? Jesus, yo!
I hate you, Jody.
Oh God!
I can't
with you, yo. I can't. Of course you can't. Of course you can't. Of course you can't, bro. Of course you can. Look, man, tight ends pretty much stay the same in my opinion. So it's kind of looking like a little bit like last week because there wasn't really much to really report when it came to these tight ends. Because if you had guys already at tight end who were elite for you, like Kittle, for instance, had him in the cookout league. Had me in the cookout league. I was like, let's go, yo.
That is truly gonna come down to the last week.
Oh, for who?
Man, everybody.
Not me.
No. Like out of the 12 teams, 10 teams have 10 and up, 7 wins plus
records.
And so so it's only 2 games separating everybody, man. Like basically from 10 to 4. So it's gonna come down to the last week. Yeah, it's gonna come down to the last week. Yeah, man.
It's gonna come down to you getting the median every week.
Yeah.
We really pushed the pace this week. Because honestly, I was like, look, I was looking, I was like, damn, because I was telling you on the live broadcast Sunday, I was like, look, man, I was like, forget that league, yo, because look,
you back.
I was like, I was like, you know what? I know who I'm facing this week. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, the rosters looks just sick. And I'm like, man, I'm looking and I'm like, it's gonna be one of those weeks. And then he started Ridley, who I said was gonna pop off.
10 minutes before we left. After I was like, no. Oh my God. Oh,
it was hilarious. It was so hilarious, yo. I was like, I just had a feeling. Yo, he killed it in the first quarter.
Bro, I literally I had a lineup sitting there at first, man. I was like, oh man, I was like, you know what, mate? Like I said, maybe I should not play the Green Bay receivers and passers. Maybe I should just play Josh Jacobs. I was like, no, that's stupid. Why would I do that? Then I had Kyle Pitts in, and I didn't even think about playing Calvin Ridley because he burned me. I played Calvin Ridley the previous week, and of course, week early, I should say.
I mean, anyway. Look, Derek, he had Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry didn't have the Derrick Henry-esque game, which I had a feeling he probably wouldn't because he played Cleveland, which Cleveland's defense has looked pretty spry.
He still scored a touchdown. Mucks it up for people, man. They muck it up for everybody, bro.
They sure do. Drake London had his worst game of the year. It's like, there's hope.
Yeah.
And then McBride was killing it. And then this is, by the way, for everyone, for context purposes, this is a tight end premium league where you get a catch and a point and a half for catches for tight ends. And then Kittle, man, that man brought his lunch pail on National Tight End Day.
Tight End Day.
It was magnificent to see. And then your boy Najee Harris closed it out for me. Slam the door on it.
Talking about before we even say anything else, bro. Oh my God, man, dude, does freaking George Pickens not have the worst luck of anybody in the NFL when it comes to back?
Yo, that was terrible,
bro. That is gross.
That was terrible on Monday night, yo. That was terrible on Monday night. What up, Kyle? What's up, man?
Oh man, I thought we had actually made it for a minute. I thought they said Kyle Singler for a minute. I was like, oh shit, Duke University.
Duke University. Oh, yo, Kyle's asking for us to pick one between your boy Romeo Doubs, or McMillan for the Bucks.
Well, I'll start off with saying this: if Jordan Love plays, give me Romeo Doubs. If he does not play, it's McMillan.
Yeah, that's probably what I would say. I think, yeah. I mean, it's possible. Even if Love plays, we know Dobbs had that one lucky game this year.
Quit. Stop.
Yeah, that one lucky game this year. And it was a week that I was like, he ain't gonna do shit. He went out and got 8 catches, 94 yards that week. I talk shit.
Yeah, man, because like, Jordan Love, man, like what Jordan Love is only been in like 3 or 4 games this year, right?
Appreciate it, Kyle. Tell all your people about us, yo. We're here for the people. We're here for the people.
Yeah,
and
man.
Entertainment.
Yeah, much love, bro.
You were saying, Johnny?
When Jordan Love has been on the field, Romeo Dobbs has been a thing, man. Like, just what it is.
Yeah. McMillan.
Oh, man.
I know. Look at his snap percentage. Trust me, he's always in the field. But come on, we can't say Dobbs is always this consistent receiver. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. Thank you.
Look,
Thank you, Kyle.
I still think Jaden. I still think Reed is the one. Just watch the bounce back.
It's the same situation. Like, bro, it's the same situation for like the Niners, man. Like Brandon Ayuk was the number 1 receiver. Jaden Reed was the guy that was on the field, getting reverses, getting carries, all that other kind of stuff. That's all it is, man. It's the same shit.
Yeah, it is. It's just again, Reed still has like that bona fide ceiling, where like Dobbins, like he'll have some decent games, but it's not like he's someone I need to like prioritize every week to start, if that makes any sense.
Oh God, man, I hope I play you in a league where, man. Kyle, you all right, bro? You all right, man?
Why are you, John? Huh? Why are you making a divide here between you and I now?
I have that type of personality, apparently, man. This is what I'm here to do, man. You know? Yeah.
Okay. Again, making notes. Making notes. Just making notes. Over here, just making notes. But tight ends, like I said, tight ends really haven't changed too much. The landscape hasn't really changed too much. It's just crap city, people. It's just crap city.
Crap city.
You know what I'm saying? Just grab someone on tight end and pray for a touchdown, basically, because that's what it really is these days.
Every cat in my house is now in my office, so
no. I mean, Taysom Hill is one of those guys where it's like, all right, we could take him, and for the lack of weapons in the Saints, like,
yeah,
he's finally looking healthy. So he's one of those guys that I'm looking probably just to acquire and put on my bench still. I have him in the tight end premium league. I got him up. I am benched, so we'll see what happens. But that's just, Hunter Henry is one of those guys that, he's Jekyll and Hyde. Like, and if he's somehow available, sure, likely, because Baltimore now has Deontay Johnson. So that's just one of those things even more for Baltimore.
Yeah.
Like Disley for the Chargers, maybe because, Herbert is still looking his way for targets, and that's always a good thing. So yeah. Any more to add before we move on to defenses?
Hunter Henry's the top 10 tight end, and if Drake May's out there, then
somehow,
on the field, then there's your guy. I mean, K-Dot and Hunter Henry. I think you nailed everything else, man.
All right, moving on. Streaming defenses. So this week, Eagles, we got the Titans taking on New England. Then we got the Chargers. I think they're taking the Browns. I believe they're playing the Browns this week, right?
Yep, you're right. Yep. They got the Browns.
And then the Commanders taking on the Giants. And then Eagles are playing
Jags.
Playing,
Jags.
that should be fun. So yeah, I mean,
Saquon Barkley.
I think who I probably would want to prioritize the most here, especially if Drake May is not playing as the Titans. Titans have proven that they are a defense that can still get after it, even though they gave up 52 points against Detroit. Like, I think they're still a solid defense overall because they still had 4 sacks in that game, 2 forced fumbles. So although they gave up 52 points and basically a blowouts because the offense can barely keep up. I still think
playing defense.
Possibly. It's possibly happening out there. You never know, They say guys that can't catch the football play defense. And then, I don't know. Maybe. So it's totally possible, bro. It could have definitely happened.
Oh,
We didn't.
man.
We barely even recognized it. But I think with the Tennessee Titans, defense, I think it's probably the one I want to pick up this week the most. Chargers defense has been a defense you've been able to start the last couple of weeks, but
Yep.
it's been more about just like, all right, like not to get Cleveland where it's like coming off the high of being Baltimore. It's Chargers defense could still turn people over. And Winston, if we look at the tape, look at the highlights and all what you saw this past week, there's a couple of interceptions that should have been had by the Ravens. Somehow,
he'll give it to you now. He'll give it to you.
Somehow just didn't catch the ball. Like
He'll give it to you.
So we've seen Winston in the past where the ugly side has come, right? Where it's like we see where Winston, oh yeah, he had a great game week before. Then he threw 3 interceptions. Then he forced, we've seen the ugly side of him as well. And then Commanders also a defense that makes sense to pick up. They've been playing a lot better lately. They're not the same defense that was like giving and bleeding, passing yards through the air. They're not more in the middle of the league when it comes to that category. Not against the Giants, who, no Andrew Thomas, and the Giants still look like a team that offensive line without him, they're a totally different team without him. So, and then possibly no Tyrone Tracy this week.
I was about to say, bro, that part right there, like that part right there. Mika, get out of here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he just like, yeah. No. Yes, Minka's my cat's name. No, like I think like the Commanders, man, like you kind of hit on it. Like I think for me, like that defense now is a defense that's now playing with a lead most of the time. And when defenses are playing with leads, right? Like more likely than not, like they have an opportunity, obviously, to make bigger plays in terms of sacks, interceptions, and things like that right there. And I think, too, obviously, you just see, like, they're playing with confidence now, man. Like, they're playing with confidence. Their head coach is a former defensive coordinator. One might even say solely responsible for what Dallas was able to put out on the field defensively in the past, past couple of years that he's been there. And obviously, his time in Atlanta and Seattle as well. So, I think it's just one of those things where, like, it's everything's kind of starting to come together for them. But I do agree. I think, honestly, I think I like all 4 of these options, really. Prioritizing, obviously, I would say the Eagles first, just because, death by 1,000 paper cuts for the Jaguars with no weapons. And then the Titans, like you mentioned, playing the Patriots, like that should be that should be a game that should be slowed down for sure. And you might even you might even be able to play the Patriots, like if you still, if they're still available, just kind of looking at it, on the flip side of things. So maybe that's a team that also needs to make the list as well. So yeah, I like all these options this week for streaming defenses, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's just based on what's out there. It makes sense to go grab. Out of all these, these are all startable. I think probably the Eagles, but I like them all. they're all in the running. Damn it! Everybody gets a ticket
for sure.
Everybody gets a ticket to this race. Everybody gets a ticket to the movie.
Yeah. This week anyway.
Any final thoughts, Johnny?
No final thoughts, man. I think not like that.
Oh, good.
There's not a lot to like go on like the waivers, man. Like this week, man, it's like
just in general. Deontay Johnson got traded. Like, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, like I was gonna get to that. I already kind of bitched about that a little bit already, man. It's not. I'll stop complaining about it because I still think the Steelers are still in a good place, man. But I think it does help the Baltimore Ravens. I will be interested to see how Deontay does play with Lamar because Deontay typically is he's been a wide receiver that typically has been, played in a timing system. So a timing system, short passing, that kind of deal. So it'll be interesting to see how he pairs with Lamar. I think from a fantasy perspective, you're probably looking at, somewhere between 5 or 6 targets a game now because you literally have a spitting image of the same wide receiver on the other side in Zay Flowers. So I think from like that perspective, that's what I think. We've obviously talked about the Indianapolis Colts and Joe Flacco now being the starting quarterback and what that does for the value of the wide receivers. for the Indianapolis Colts, and then obviously not having Jonathan Taylor. So I think that's an element of things that we have to take in consideration for the Indianapolis Colts is like, finally getting JT back and like JT having running lanes or the wide receivers, being able to have one-on-one coverage on the outside. And then the Houston Texans and Stephon Diggs, tearing his ACL tearing his ACL last week, out for the year now. I think that right there is definitely that's definitely a big time blow to them for sure, because now all of a sudden that happens, and now the Colts are making a quarterback change to kind of give themselves an opportunity, as now it's a 2-horse race in the AFC South. And then like the Cincinnati Bengals, man, like just kind of still continuing to struggle. I'm kind of just jumping around, still continuing to struggle. I think we're really seeing the importance of T. Higgins and what he means to Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals. So, just for everybody to kind of be like, all right, like just pay Jamar Chase and it's fine. Jamar Chase is still a talent. There's absolutely, I'm not taking anything away from him, but like, I think like for this offense to thrive and succeed the way that it needs to, it definitely needs a number 2 wide receiver, a real life number 2 wide receiver out there. And I think they also need to get a little bit more from the running game as well. And then, like we talked about, man, Christian McCaffrey, that's it seems like that's what the NFC is going to come down to now, is like all of these big time players getting healthy at the right time. Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, you got a rookie kind of leading the way, man, with Jaden Daniels. So like, just, I think like it's a great time for football, man. Like we've been saying it all year, the season's halfway over. We've been doing this thing for almost half a year, man. So like I'm glad we've been able to do this for halfway through the year, man. I know this was a pretty important deal to both of us, man. So, but other than that, man, like, just finishing the second half strong, man, and much appreciation to the people that have been tuning in and checking us out, and hopefully we can get you guys to the playoffs, and hopefully we can get you guys some money on a week in and week out basis, man. So those are my final thoughts, since you was going to shit on me for not having any. So.
Well, I asked him to go for a couple seconds. He went on for a couple miles. I appreciate you too. Yeah. And I would say that, yeah, look, when it comes to, the AFC is going to be really interesting with your boys in the mix as well. Ravens, Chiefs, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Texans, if they get their act together, but now they just lost Stephon Diggs for the season, like you said. So that's like definitely a blow. The NFC is just interesting because Detroit, you know what I'm saying? Like it's feeling like it's Detroit's conference at the moment. Yeah. But I'm not going to discount the Eagles just yet, because I think they're a team that if they can find their defense could still be a little bit more consistent. They're a dangerous team as well. Yeah. I know they did a lot of things for patching up that secondary, bringing in a couple of rookies, drafted pretty high, and overall just fixating to have some, decent linebacker play. So I think with the Eagles, I think is a team that still is on my short list for Super Bowl contenders. The Niners, we've called it since the summer that there was gonna be some regression. And like you said, CMC potentially now coming back. We'll have to continue looking at that. But it's more a situation where the Niners desperately need him now. They need him up to speed. They need him healthy. So that would remain to be seen if that would be, if that were to come to fruition, how that looks like. Other than that, the NFC West is up for grabs. The Rams, I'm saying, convincing win over Minnesota, who've now lost back-to-back games. So Minnesota is looking like a team that started to come down to earth a little bit. But I would say we're in for an exciting finish for fantasy. Tune in on Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, because we got your picks, bets, and props show. It's gonna be week 9, by the way, and we're just gonna be bringing you all of the goodness. So hopefully to get you guys some cash in y'all pockets. And like Johnny said, on the road to getting you guys some fantasy football championships, the one-stop shop is here. So we look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday. Till then, hope you all have a decent night. Feel free to follow us still on Twitter. The tags are below. And we hope you guys have a great evening.